Hi everyone! Today's hair idea was inspired by the character Andromeda from the 2010 film Clash of the Titans. I love Grecian-influenced hair, and with Halloween quickly approaching, I thought that maybe this could be helpful to those of you who may be working on a Greek or Roman-style costume. I began my project on clean straightened hair by making a center parting at the top of my head followed by a horizontal half divide, which effectively cut everything in half. I should mention that the top portion was definitely a little more dense, and that's because most of the styling will occur here. I needed to have enough in this one section to make all the curls and twists, but since the bottom did feel a tad sparse and this is a costume idea, I decided to use a single 3-clip weft of additional filler hair here. This piece is from my Irresistible Me set, which I recently reviewed, and I'll have that link in the underbar. Once I had it installed, I rolled the whole thing up and clipped it out of my way. If I weren't working on my own head, I probably wouldn't need all of the sections I'm about to make, but since I am, there's no way for me to do this otherwise. It just wouldn't look as neat without them, I think. With a comb, I made 2 divides on either side of my head, and I clipped them away, and then I placed my fingers at my temples and drew them backwards until they met in the middle, which formed a small crescent shape over my crown. The hair that's left over below this is isolated and clipped back too, so that the only stuff that's loose is this one section. And all I'm going to do here is backcomb. I'm using my favorite Aveda teasing powder and a simple comb since I feel like this particular tool gives me more control than a brush. Obviously, this step is optional, so if you'd rather, you could build a bun or maybe insert a foundation to create the volume. But if you don't mind teasing, this is definitely a quick and easy way to bump up the hair. This one section will be the foundation around which everything else will settle. When I was done with my own backcomb, I gathered the entire crescent shape into my hand and then rolled the ends around 2 fingers and tucked them up as best as I was able and pinned it down. Moving along, I plugged in my 13mm curling wand and made ready to build the next partings. Again, I drew vertical lines in the middle of the hair along the sides of my face. I'll be working with the inner sections first. Those outer panels will be the roll along the sides of my head, so I also left out the hair near my ear. Again, if I were working on another woman's head, I probably would have started this project by curling all of her hair first. But since I can't see the back of my own head as clearly, I felt that by waving everything section by section, I'd have more control over each and every step. I'm basically creating a halo of ringlets around the front and sides of my teased bump, and I chose the smaller iron because tight spiral curls were in fact worn by real ancient women, and many modern Greek ladies have these kind of dense curls naturally. Once these curls were ready, I began to separate and drape them over the crown. I didn't pull on them tightly because I wanted them to remain as intact and tight as possible, and when it came to keeping them in place, I used open U-pins and pushed them into the base of the bump, just as I would if I were pinning curls to a bun maker. Basically, the tease is the cushion on which I'm attaching this hair. When that was done, I curled all the loose hair around my face, including whatever was left over under that initial crescent shape at the crown. In fact, I kind of separated everything by putting a half over each shoulder, and that's obviously because I need an even amount on each side of the curly top section for the next step. Like with the crown, I chose to backcomb along my face, but this time I kind of just pushed the hair down once or twice, as opposed to several times. This did add in a nice little lift for me, but it totally set off my frizzy edges. So here I'm putting a tiny drop of Aveda's dry oil into my palms and smoothing those out as well as I'm able. Starting at my forehead, I gathered up some hair and rolled it backwards. Every few turns, I'd pick up additional strands and combine them in, and I kept doing this as I moved along the sides and back. When I was done on the left, I used a style clip to hold it in place, and then repeated this simple motion on the right. With both rolls completed, I removed the style clip and held the ends of each side in one hand. I just wanted to double check in the mirror that they were resting in the space below my crown before I pulled in the ends of the curls from the middle, too. Everything that's left hanging down is secured into a regular ponytail. It was at this point that I used my fingers to make a small space above the elastic. The ponytail is pushed under and then up and through this pocket before being tightened once again. I'm now in the home stretch. The ponytail is divided into 2, and here I'm working on the left, and instead of braiding, I'm just rolling the hair down the length. I am, however, going to put a small elastic on the bottom of this, and that's not because it's going to hold anything per se, but it will keep the ends together, and it'll also make it a little easier for me to pin. These pieces will come from the back of my head forwards to fill the space between the crown and the rolls along the sides. They are placed in a circular motion around the center, thus creating a very loose halo shape at the end, which of course is a very recognizable Grecian style pattern. I debated braiding the two halves of my ponytail, but I kinda like how the twist turned out. If any of you recreate this, I'd love to see how you put your own stamp on the ponytail's detailing. As soon as the top was finished, I took down the safety section that I clipped back at the very start and used the same 13mm iron to curl everything. Don't forget that I've put in a weft of false hair, and if you choose to do the same thing, make sure that you select sections from both the weft and your scalp each time you do a curl. This will ensure that it blends together more seamlessly. When I was ready, I pulled up the corners on either side of my neck and pinned them right below the ponytail's point of origin. And lastly, I chose to decorate my hair by slipping in a gold leaf headband and by putting on Grecian style earrings, and with that, I was finished. I hope you all enjoyed this DIY hair idea today, and if you did, please leave me a thumbs up or share your thoughts in the comment sections. Do you know what kind of costume you're going to wear this Halloween? I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, until next time, have fun and keep braiding. Bye!